Well, that was the flavour of the debate in Holyrood yesterday. We're joined now from Glasgow by the Scottish Government's Cabinet Secretary for Finance, Derek MacKay. Welcome to the programme, Mr MacKay. The Scottish Nationalists have been complaining about Tory austerity for years. Now you've finally got the powers to raise taxes and end austerity. You're not doing it. Why not?
Well, we don't want to pass on Tory austerity to households in Scotland. And if we had raised taxation, that's what it would have done. So we've taken a balanced approach on taxation by freezing the rates, the basic rate, the higher rate and the additional rate. But what I'm not following is the Tory tax cut for many of the richest in terms of the higher rate threshold.
So you think
we'll raise revenue?
Yep, you think that people on £43,000 are rich?
Well, it's proportionate, and that's one of the points around income tax.
But are they rich?
People paying the higher rate are amongst the richer end of the spectrum.
You called them rich. You called them tax cuts for the Tory tax cuts for the rich, is what you said.
The richest of our society, and that's about 14% of taxpayers. So it is the case that at the higher end of income. So what we're doing with income tax is taking a balanced and proportionate approach to raise revenues to spend on public services in Scotland, and we're not simply following Westminster's approach.
Your tax regime, Mr MacKay, is no different from the Tories. The basic rate's 20%, the higher rate's 40%, the additional rate's 45%. What is it in Westminster? 20, 40, 45. That's it. It's the Tory tax regime.
But we're not following the Tories in their raising of the threshold for the higher rate. I mean, that is a tax cut. We're not following that.
Well, let's look at what that means.
The higher rate threshold in line with inflation.
Let's look at what that means. It means that in Scotland, the higher rate, 40%, will start at 43,430. In the rest of the UK, it will start at 45,000. That's it. That's the difference between you and the Tories. £1,500 on one band. That's your approach to austerity.
But what we are able to do with the divergence in tax and the other decisions that I've made is invest over £700 million into the NHS, education, policing and infrastructure. And I think these are sound investments. And our tax proposition also focuses on our social pledges as well, and that's things like free education, no prescription charges in Scotland, concessionary travel and more support for social care, and a different approach in council tax as well. So what we've been able to do is raise the necessary investment and revenue to be able to invest in our quality public services. And that's the balanced approach that we have in Scotland, where we raise the tax and we'll spend it on things that people appreciate, including a £300 million increase for the NHS.
How much tax, by starting the higher rate a little earlier, how much revenue do you raise?
Well, for the higher rate threshold difference, that's estimated to be around £89 million.
Yes, 80 million this year. So it's not great in the grand scheme of things. Why didn't you raise... I mean, the Scottish Nationalists have told us for years that it's an unequal Tory society, that the rich have got too rich, the gap between the rich and poor is too wide. Why didn't you raise the top rate of tax to 50p?
Well, we're doing many things to tackle inequality in our society.
Why didn't you raise the tax?
Well, I'm telling you what we're investing in, and that includes childcare, it includes the welfare fund of Scotland.
But I'm asking you why you didn't raise the top rate of tax.
But I'm telling you what we are doing to tackle inequality.
Yes, and I'm asking you why you didn't raise the top rate of tax. Why didn't you do that?
Because we've raised the necessary revenue to be able to invest in quality public services, and an extra, for my budget as proposed to Parliament, an extra £700 million for public services in Scotland.
Hold on, you are slashing funding in real terms to local government.
Well, the local government settlement in terms of local government services is actually increased by over £240 million. That's an increase when you look at health and social care integration, local social care and local services.
Local government funding in real terms is being cut by over £300 million.
I'm sorry,
these are your figures.
No, well, you've actually just taken the Labour press release.
No, I haven't. I've got your own figures here.
You're not looking at the total package to local government and to local government services, which includes a number of funding streams that takes the figure to over £240 million, not of a reduction, but an increase to local government services in Scotland. You're only looking at part of the picture, Andrew.
If with what I would give you the bigger picture, if with one hand local government funding is being cut by 327, and by the other hand you're adding in another 240, simple arithmetic tells me overall that's still a cut.
Well, I tell you what, Andrew, don't take my word for it. There's the Fraser of Allender Institute, who are independent experts, who have actually said that the increase for local government services is even higher than the figure that I suggested.
What's wrong with the figures I've just given you?
Well, you've picked the Labour Party press release, which I have to say isn't accurate.
I've got your table 902.
Well, you see,
the
that's
official
only
government spending plans.
Andrew, you should know better. That's only part of the settlement to local government and only part of the picture in local government services. I'm giving you an accurate figure on the totality of the package to local government services. And if it was such a bad proposition, why hasn't the Association of Local Authorities rejected my package to local authorities? It's a very fair and strong settlement.
Well, hold on. The Scottish Local Government Partnership had this to say. Derek MacKay has used smoke and mirrors to try and disguise the SNP's slash and burn economic strategy. The SNP has just clobbered the tier of government, local government, which is closest to the people of Scotland. It's plain to see who will suffer most.
But you have clearly not read the rest of the press release and the commentary from COSLA, that is the Association of Local Government in Scotland, who have said that they recognise that we've moved on the package, and you have to look at the wider package for local government services. So all in all, they haven't rejected the offer that I've made to them. If it's so bad, they would have done, I can assure you, but they're considering the totality of resources we've given for local government services, which actually shows an increase of £240 million, and independent experts are saying it's actually higher than that we're investing.
Not that independent expert who happens to be the Local Government Partnership.
The Fraser of Allender Institute.
Right, you mentioned the Fraser of Allender
Institute. Is that what the BBC is seriously saying?
Let me come back to the Fraser of Allender.
More in childcare,
hold on.
In education.
You've said all that. You mentioned the Fraser of Allender Institute, which pointed out recently that economic growth in Scotland is now only a third of what it is in the rest of the UK. Why?
Well, Andrew, you will also know that the oil and gas sector has been impacted by the price of oil. That has impacted on our economy.
It's all down to oil and gas?
No, it's not all down to that. But, you know, our economy is a factor in our economy. And we've had a strong economic performance in Scotland in terms over the period of devolution and in the time that this government's been in office on productivity and employment, and in terms of the number
unemployment
of
is rising, Mr. MacKay. Unemployment is rising. Growth is faltering. Foreign direct investment is collapsing.
Employment's in a better situation than it was before the pre-crisis levels, and it has a good record in Scotland. And it will vary from month to month, of course it will. But over the course of the year, we've had a stronger position in terms of employment and unemployment. And we will do even more to support our economy through the budget that I've outlined to Parliament,
Let me just finish
including lifting 100,000 businesses from business rates altogether.
From a tax that you originally introduced. Let me come to one final question.
Business rates was not a tax.
No, but you put a supplement on the business rates, Mr. MacKay.
I'm sorry, that doesn't relate to the 100,000 businesses
Let me ask you one
that will
final
benefit
question.
from the small business bonus, Andrew. I think you really need to check the facts.
Oh, don't worry, I have
checked
checked my facts, and we will check them more too. If you are not following Tory austerity, why are you cutting funding to universities, and why are you keeping the 1% Tory cap on public sector pay?
Well, I think we have to take a balanced approach on pay to ensure that there are no compulsory redundancies in Scotland's public services. Well, I can tell you that no compulsory redundancies is most certainly not a Tory approach, but that's what we'll deliver, a fair and balanced pay offer to our public sector workers, delivery of the living wage, and a different policy in terms of low pay as well. But we're raising extra resources to invest in public services across Scotland, and yes, taking a different approach from the Tories. And I think that's the right thing to do, and that's what the people of Scotland expect.
All right. Mr. MacKay, thank you for joining us from Glasgow.
Thank you very much.
Time now.